Sundar Pichai stepped out of his car in the narrow streets of his old neighborhood in Chennai. It had been many years since he had walked here. The last time he was a young man with a suitcase full of dreams, catching a flight to the United States. Now he was the CEO of Google, one of the biggest companies in the world. But today, none of that mattered. He wasn't here as a powerful tech leader. He was just Sundar, the boy who grew up in a small flat with big hopes. The air smelled the same, dusty, warm, and filled with the scent of masala from nearby kitchens. The streets were crowded with children running barefoot, scooters honking, and vendors calling out their prices. It was all so familiar. He passed the old tea stall where his father used to buy evening snacks. The shopkeeper had changed, but the little wooden benches were still the same. He smiled, remembering how he once sat there with his school books, waiting for his father to come home from work. As he walked further, the memories became stronger. He remembered how he and his brother used to race to school, trying not to miss the morning bell. He remembered studying by a dim light, with his mother quietly cooking in the kitchen, and his father listening to the radio in the next room. But one face kept coming back to him over and over again. Kamala Auntie. Kamala Auntie wasn't his real aunt, but that's what everyone called her. She had been hired by his parents to help take care of him when they were busy with work. She was not just a caretaker, she was like a second mother. She would tie his shoelaces when he was late for school, tell him stories when he was sad, and feed him with her own hands. Her voice was always calm, her hands always gentle, and her eyes always kind. She called him Chinna Kuti, which means little one in Tamil. He remembered how she used to carry him on her back when he was too tired to walk, how she made him warm rasam when he was sick, how she clapped with joy when he got his first prize in school. She was always there, quiet, dependable, and full of love. Sundar hadn't thought about her in years. Life had moved too fast. College, in the US, jobs, promotions, meetings, flights. It all seemed like a blur now. But standing on this street with the past brushing against him like a soft breeze, he felt something stir deep in his heart. Out of curiosity, he stopped by a small grocery store run by a man in his 40s. Anna, Sundar asked, using the respectful Tamil word for elder brother, "Do you know what happened to Kamala Auntie? She used to live in this area, worked with my family years ago." The shopkeeper looked at him with interest. "You mean Kamala, who used to work in the Iyer family? The one who cared for the two boys?" "Yes, that's her," Sundar said quickly, his heart beating a little faster. The shopkeeper nodded slowly. "She's still alive, lives in the old colony nearby. Can you believe it, sir? She's 85 now and still working, cleaning floors, in the textile factory near the bus stand." Sundar froze. The words didn't make sense at first. He thought maybe he had misheard. "Still working? At 85? "Yes," the man said. "She never had children of her own, and after her husband died, there was no one left to take care of her. She still wakes up early and walks to the factory. I see her sometimes, bent over carrying bundles of clothes, but always smiling." Sundar didn't know what to say. His throat felt dry. He thanked the shopkeeper and walked away, lost in thought. Kamala Auntie, the same woman who had once carried him on her back, was now carrying laundry at 85? How had he not known? How had he forgotten her so completely? He sat down on a nearby bench, watching people pass by, but he wasn't seeing them. He was seeing her, Kamala, standing at the doorway of their old flat, calling him inside. Kamala, gently rubbing balm on his forehead when he had a fever. Kamala handing him a coin to buy candy when he was sad. And now, she was struggling to survive, while he had everything: money, power, comfort. The guilt hit him hard. All these years he had been surrounded by success and luxury, but the one person who had been there for him in his weakest moments was forgotten. It wasn't right. It wasn't fair. Suddenly all the awards, all the achievements, All the news headlines felt small. What did it mean to succeed if you couldn't lift up the people who had once lifted you? He stood up. There was no question in his mind now. He had to find her. He had to see her with his own eyes. Maybe she wouldn't even remember him. Maybe she would be angry. But he had to try. He had to do something. He couldn't walk away from this. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Sundar walked toward the old textile factory near the bus stand, his heart heavy but determined. He wasn't sure what he would say. He didn't know what he would find. But he knew this. He was not going to forget Kamala Auntie again, and what he would do next would change both of their lives forever. Sundar's heart pounded as he walked closer to the old textile factory near the bus stand. The building looked worn out, its walls faded and cracked from years of sun and rain. The large metal doors were open, and workers moved in and out, carrying heavy loads. Sundar scanned the crowd carefully, searching for the familiar face he hoped to find. His mind was filled with memories of Kamala Auntie, her warm smile, her soft voice, the gentle way she used to hold his hand. But now, he was about to see her after many years, and he wondered what she would be like. Inside the factory courtyard, Sundar saw a small group of elderly women working quietly. Their backs were bent, their clothes worn and faded. One of them caught his attention. She was smaller than the others, with thin white hair tied tightly in a bun. She moved slowly but with steady hands, folding large bundles of clothes. Sundar's breath caught. Could it be her? He stepped forward, trying not to scare her. "Kamala Auntie?" he said softly. The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were tired, but they held a gentle spark. For a moment she didn't recognize him. Then her eyes widened as she stared at his face. "Sundar? Is that really you?" she asked in a weak voice. Tears welled up in her eyes. She smiled, a mixture of disbelief and joy. "My little Sundar, all grown up." She reached out to touch his hand, her fingers trembling. Sundar felt a rush of emotions he couldn't describe. He knelt beside her and took her hands in his. "Kamala Auntie, I've been looking for you. I didn't know you were still working here." She shook her head slowly. "I have to, Sundar. I have no family now. After my husband died, I had no choice. This work keeps me alive." Her words struck Sundar deeply. He looked at her frail frame, the wrinkles on her face, the tiredness in her eyes. She was barely able to carry the heavy loads she dealt with every day. Yet, she never complained. She smiled even while working hard. Her pride was strong, but so was her loneliness. He asked her gently, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you reach out?" Kamala sighed. "You had your life, your family. I didn't want to be a burden. I was proud to take care of you when you were small, but I never thought you'd come back to find me like this." Sundar felt a knot in his throat. He realized how much she had sacrificed, how quietly she had suffered. He remembered all the small things she had done for him. The little lunches she packed for school, the lullabies she sang, the stories she told when he was scared of the dark. And now, here she was, working hard at her age just to survive. She told him about her days, waking up before dawn, walking long distances to the factory, cleaning floors and folding clothes, often without enough food or rest. Sometimes she went weeks without seeing a doctor, even though her body ached. She said she didn't want anyone's pity. She just wanted to live with dignity. Sundar listened carefully, feeling more determined than ever to help her. He wanted to do more than just offer money. He wanted to make sure Kamala Auntie never had to work like this again. After the day ended, Sundar walked Kamala back to her tiny rented room nearby. The room was simple, just a bed, a small table, and a few old pictures pinned to the wall. Sundar noticed the picture of a young Kamala and her husband, smiling in happier times. She explained that after her husband passed, she had no children and no one to support her. That night, Sundar sat alone, thinking about Kamala's story. He thought about the millions of people like her, elderly and forgotten, working hard just to survive. He felt a mix of sadness, guilt, and hope. Sadness for what she had been through, guilt for not noticing sooner, and hope that he could do something to change her life. He decided to stay longer in Chennai. He wanted to learn more about the struggles elderly workers face and how he could help not just Kamala, but others like her. As days passed, Sundar spent time with Kamala. They shared stories and memories. He saw her strength and kindness shine despite the hardships. He realized that Kamala's life was a powerful reminder of the value of care, respect, and human connection. One afternoon, Sundar took Kamala to a small tea shop. It was the first time she had been out for so many years. She was shy at first, but soon laughed like the old days. Watching her smile, Sundar felt a warmth in his heart. He knew this was only the beginning. That evening, he made a promise to himself. Kamala Auntie would never be alone or forgotten again. He would do everything he could to give her the life she deserved. The next steps were clear in his mind. Sundar began reaching out to friends, lawyers, and doctors. He wanted to arrange a safe home, health care, and support for Kamala. But more than that, he wanted to raise awareness about people like her, whose stories often go unheard. Sundar's journey had changed. It was no longer just about success in the tech world. It was about kindness, responsibility, and the power of remembering where you come from. Kamala Auntie's story was now a part of his life, and he knew it would inspire many others too. Sundar Pichai could not get the image of Kamala Auntie working in the factory out of his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her bent over, struggling with heavy bundles, her small frame tired but still smiling. It was a picture that made his heart ache deeply. He had traveled the world, achieved great success, and yet this woman, who had cared for him when he was a child, was still working hard at the age of 85 just to survive. Sundar felt something shift inside him, a powerful need to do more than just help quietly. He wanted to make a real difference in her life. The very next day, Sundar cancelled his planned meetings in Chennai. He told his assistants to handle everything while he stayed back to spend time with Kamala and figure out how to help her. He wasn't thinking about the headlines or what the media might say. This was personal now. This was about a woman who had given so much love and care when he was young, and who deserved dignity and comfort in her old age. Sundar invited Kamala to have dinner with him at a small restaurant nearby. It was the first time she had been out to eat in many years. At first, she was hesitant. She said she didn't want to trouble him or accept charity, but Sundar insisted gently, "Kamala Auntie, this isn't charity. It's gratitude. You have given so much to me, and I want to give back." When Kamala arrived at the restaurant, she looked shy and unsure, but as soon as she tasted the food and saw Sundar's warm smile, she relaxed. They talked about old times, about Sundar's childhood, and the many moments when she had looked after him. She laughed softly at some of his school stories, and for a while, she forgot about her worries. After dinner, Sundar shared with her his plan. He wanted to make sure Kamala never had to work like that again. He told her he would find a safe home for her, provide health care, and ensure she lived comfortably. Kamala's eyes filled with tears, but she said, "Sundar, I don't want to be a burden on anyone. I want to live with pride." Sundar understood her feelings. Kamala was proud, strong, and independent, but she had carried the burden of loneliness and hardship alone for too long. Sundar promised her that this help would be her right, not a favor. It was time for her to rest. In the days that followed, Sundar made calls to his lawyers and healthcare professionals. He arranged for a beautiful apartment in a quiet neighborhood where Kamala could live peacefully. The place was fully furnished with everything she might need: comfortable furniture, a garden filled with flowers, and easy access to doctors and caregivers. Sundar wanted Kamala to have a life full of joy, not just comfort. He made sure she had a caregiver who understood her language and customs, someone who could accompany her to temple visits and family gatherings. He wanted her to feel connected and loved, just like she had made him feel as a child. While all this was happening, Sundar began thinking bigger. Kamala's story was not unique. There were millions of elderly people in India who worked hard every day, without support or recognition. Many of them had cared for others during their younger years but were forgotten when they themselves grew old. Sundar felt a responsibility to use his voice and influence to shine a light on their struggles. He decided to speak publicly about Kamala's story, not to seek attention, but to raise awareness. In an emotional interview, Sundar shared what he had learned and how Kamala's strength inspired him. He spoke about the need for better support systems for elderly workers, pension plans, healthcare, and safe housing. His words touched millions of people, sparking conversations and debates across India. Inspired by the response, Sundar launched a foundation named after Kamala. The Kamala Foundation aimed to help elderly caregivers like her. The foundation provided financial assistance, healthcare services, and shelter to those who had spent their lives caring for others but had nowhere to go in their old age. Sundar's actions inspired many others to share their stories. People began talking about the forgotten heroes in their own families and communities. Social media was filled with tributes to elderly caregivers, and many started donating or volunteering to help. Kamala, meanwhile, was slowly adjusting to her new life. At first, she found it strange to have help and comfort. She had spent so many years relying only on herself that she didn't know how to accept kindness. But with Sundar's patient support and the help of her caregivers, she began to relax and enjoy her days. She took up gardening in her new home, planting jasmine and marigolds, the flowers she loved as a young woman. She started teaching neighborhood children simple Tamil poems and stories. She laughed more, sang her old lullabies, and told Sundar stories of her youth. Their bond grew stronger each day. Sundar often visited her, learning from her wisdom and kindness. He realized that Kamala's life was a lesson in strength, sacrifice, and love. She had taught him the meaning of true care, not just for others, but for oneself. The changes Sundar made were not just about Kamala. They reflected his belief that success was not only about money or status, but about giving back, remembering where you came from, and caring for the people who shaped you. Through Kamala's story, Sundar reminded the world that every person deserves respect and dignity, no matter their age or situation. He showed that sometimes the greatest leaders are those who remember the smallest voices. As the Kamala Foundation grew, it reached more and more elderly caregivers, offering hope and support. Sundar knew that the work was just beginning, but he felt hopeful. Because one small act of kindness, finding Kamala and choosing to help her, had started a movement that could change many lives. Sundar Pichai's discovery of Kamala Aunty was more than a reunion. It was a call to action, a reminder of the power of compassion, and a promise that no one should ever be forgotten. And for Kamala, it was a chance to live her final years with dignity, surrounded by love, respect, and the knowledge that she mattered. Sundar Pichai's life had changed in ways he never expected. What had started as a simple visit to his old neighborhood to find Kamala Aunty, the woman who had cared for him as a child, became a journey that touched his heart deeply and changed his purpose. After setting up a comfortable home for Kamala and launching the Kamala Foundation to help elderly caregivers like her, Sundar felt a new responsibility, one that went beyond his work at Google. He was now a voice for the forgotten elders, a champion for dignity and respect for those who had spent their lives caring for others, but were often left alone in their old age. One morning, Sundar received a phone call from a woman named Meena. She had heard about the Kamala Foundation through social media and wanted to share her story. Meena was in her 70s and had worked as a housemaid in various homes for over 40 years. Like Kamala, She had no family to support her now, and she was struggling to live on her small pension. She told Sundar how difficult life had become. The long days of work, the aches and pains, the loneliness that came with no one to talk to or care for her. Listening to Meena's voice, Sundar felt a familiar pain. Meena's story was one of many, and he knew that the Kamala Foundation had to grow to meet the needs of these elders. He promised Meena that the foundation would help her and many others like her find shelter, health care, and companionship. He felt a deep connection to Meena's struggles, as he did with Kamala's. Sundar began visiting different parts of Chennai and other cities in India, meeting elderly caregivers who had spent their lives serving others but had been forgotten. He met women who had cooked, cleaned, and cared for children, only to find themselves alone in old age. He met men who had worked in factories, farms, and shops, now too weak to work but with no support system. Each story broke his heart, but also strengthened his determination. Sundar realized that the issue was bigger than any one person. It was a social problem that required action from communities, governments, and companies. He began talking to local leaders and policymakers, urging them to create programs that would support elderly workers with pensions, health care, and housing. At the same time, Sundar's work with the foundation grew. The Kamala Foundation started organizing health camps, where doctors volunteered to check elderly people's health for free. They arranged legal aid for those who needed help accessing government benefits. The foundation also began partnering with local communities to create safe living spaces where elderly people could live together, share meals, and support each other like a family. One day, Sundar was invited to speak at a conference on aging and social care. Standing on the stage, he shared Kamala's story and the stories of many others he had met. He spoke passionately about the need to respect and care for our elders, who had given so much to society. His words touched many hearts and inspired people to take action. Back at the foundation, Sundar met with Kamala often. She was now fully settled in her new home, surrounded by friends and caregivers who loved her. Kamala had become a symbol of strength and hope for many. She sometimes told stories of her past, reminding everyone that even in the hardest times, kindness and love could shine through. Sundar also made sure Kamala had moments of joy. He took her to temples, festivals, and family gatherings. Kamala's laughter filled the rooms once again, and Sundar felt a deep happiness seeing her live with dignity and peace. One afternoon, while sitting in the garden with Kamala, Sundar asked, "Auntie, what do you think about all this? How do you feel about the foundation and the work we are doing?" Kamala smiled softly and said, "Sundar, I never imagined my life would touch so many others. I'm grateful that you found me and chose to help. My only wish is that every elderly person who feels alone can find someone to care for them." Her words stayed with Sundar. They reminded him why he started this journey. Not for fame or praise, but for the simple human need to care and be cared for. As the Kamala Foundation continued to grow, Sundar made sure it remained true to its mission, to honor the dignity of every elderly person and to remind the world that behind every success story are the hands and hearts of caregivers who deserve respect. Sundar's own life was richer now, filled with deeper meaning and connection. He had learned that success is not measured by wealth or power alone, but by the kindness we show and the lives we touch. And in every visit, every smile from Kamala, Sundar found the true meaning of gratitude and love, the very values that shaped him from a small boy in Chennai to a leader with a heart. Sundar Pichai's journey with Kamala Auntie had come a long way from the day he found her working in that old textile factory. It was a journey that taught him many things, about kindness, responsibility, and the power of remembering those who helped shape our lives. As time passed, Sundar continued to work tirelessly to improve the lives of elderly caregivers through the Kamala Foundation. But more importantly, he discovered something within himself, a deeper connection to his roots, and a stronger desire to make a lasting difference. Kamala Auntie's life had changed completely. No longer was she working long hours under the hot sun, folding clothes in a noisy factory. Instead, she lived in a beautiful home where she was cared for with love and respect. She had friends to talk to, good food to eat, and access to doctors who looked after her health. But more than that, she felt valued and remembered, feelings that were missing from her life for so long. Sundar visited Kamala often. Each time he found her smiling, sharing stories from her past, and listening to his tales from around the world. Their bond was stronger than ever. Kamala told him how much she appreciated everything he had done, but she also reminded him that there were many others like her who still needed help. Sundar listened carefully and promised that the foundation would continue growing to reach as many elderly caregivers as possible. Inspired by Kamala's words, Sundar expanded the foundation's work to new cities and rural areas. The team organized workshops to teach families how to care for their elderly relatives with compassion. They also created programs to help older people learn new skills, keep active, and stay connected with their communities. One important project Sundar started was a storytelling initiative. The foundation invited elderly caregivers to share their life stories with young people. These stories became powerful lessons about sacrifice, love, and resilience. Sundar believed that by sharing these experiences, society could better understand and respect the elders who had quietly given so much. The impact of the Kamala Foundation was visible everywhere. Communities began valuing their elderly more. Schools started teaching about respect for elders. Local governments began working with the foundation to improve healthcare and social services for the aged. The movement that started with one woman and one man's promise was now a nationwide wave of change. Sundar often thought about how far he had come, from the boy who needed care to the man who was now providing it. He remembered the lessons Kamala had taught him: patience, kindness, and the importance of never forgetting where you come from. His success was not just in business, but in the lives he was able to touch and improve. One day, during a special event to honor caregivers, Sundar invited Kamala to speak. Though shy at first, Kamala shared her story with courage and grace. She spoke about the years she worked hard without complaint, the loneliness she felt, and the joy she found when Sundar and the foundation reached out to her. The audience was moved to tears. Kamala's story reminded everyone that behind every successful person, there is often someone who sacrificed quietly. After the event, many people approached Sundar and Kamala to thank them. They shared their own stories and pledged to help support elderly caregivers in their communities. The foundation received donations and volunteers from all over the country, eager to be part of this important cause. Sundar realized that this was the true meaning of leadership: to inspire and empower others to make the world better. He felt proud, but also humbled by the responsibility. As years passed, Kamala's health slowly declined. Sundar and the foundation made sure she received the best care possible. When her time finally came, Sundar was by her side, holding her hand, grateful for the love and lessons she had given him. After Kamala's passing, Sundar dedicated a part of the foundation's work to her memory. The Kamala Care Center was established to provide ongoing support and shelter for elderly caregivers, ensuring no one would be left alone or forgotten. Sundar's story with Kamala became an inspiration for many around the world. It showed how compassion and gratitude could change lives, and how success was not just about what you achieve, but about how you give back. Even as Sundar continued to lead a busy life, he never forgot the little girl who needed care and the woman who gave it. Their story reminded him every day to stay grounded, humble, and kind. In the end, Sundar Pichai's reunion with his 85-year-old Nanny was more than a meeting. It was a powerful reminder that behind every great person, there are quiet heroes, deserving of respect and care. and it was proof that one act of kindness can create a ripple effect, touching countless lives and inspiring a better world.